Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your patience. Let's get started. Some standard instructions. Appreciate if you could mute yourself and use the chat window to ask us questions. Um, and welcome to the relevance of blockchain in the enterprise world. So we'll be having our elite uh, panel here that will be talking about this. And Vijay is founder and CEO of BitsCrunch. He is 3 times TEDx speaker and the first one to be invited below 30. He's an expert in blockchain, mobility, automotive, and telecom. And he's one of the top 40 data scientists under 40 in India. So, a very esteemed guest here. Rohas Nagpal is the chief blockchain architect in building the money wallet at Hi-Fi Blockchain. He's an experienced instructor at Blockchain ADDS course, and he's co-founded Prime Chain and Blockchain in 2016 and a community of 37 banks plus IBM, Microsoft, and Intel. He's authored the Cybercrime Investigation Manual, and that's referred to the Bible for any cybercrime investigations. So, co-founded the Asian School of Cyber Laws and has investigated several cyber crimes. So, we're glad to have you, Rojas, here. Sylvan is a guest lecturer at the University of Wyoming and University of Southern Denmark, and he's a panelist at the University of Zurich and University of Basel. He's a member of board at the Swiss Finance and Technology Association, and he's expert at fintech. So, certificate of advanced studies in CS and blockchain from University of Zurich, and he's also a fintech executive education at Oxford, and he's having several publications like the Anna newsletter or tokenization of assets. So thank you, Sylvan. And Nagashravani, she's a technical seasoned expert with almost 12 plus years in the software industry, and she is a avid technology and innovation enthusiast with deep experience in IAM, systems design, cloud computing, blockchain, cryptography, application security, automation, and agile and design thinking methodologies. She is a certified Scrum Master from alumnus from IIM Bangalore and BITS Pilani, and she's published papers on strengthened data security on blockchain in the CXO 2020, and she's member of IT. So welcome aboard, and without further ado, I think we'll get started on this discussion. So the first thing I would like to just kind of question everyone, and first of all, welcome all of you again to this webinar, and we are honored to have the distinguished panel here. So with that, I'll open up the panel for the first question. How do you see blockchain in the different industry verticals, and what do you see the use of blockchain in the enterprise? So let's start with that. So Sylvan, Rojas, Praveen, or Nagashravani, if you want to take that.
Yeah, blockchain is a foundational technology upon which we can build a lot of applications. So there are already applications built upon it, starting with the cryptocurrency, world famous Bitcoin. There are a lot of technologies covering almost many industries. It could be a provenance technology or a decentralized fintech technologies, or proving the traceability or improving transparency in the supply chain or voting system. So frankly, to start with, I'm just trying to set the foundation that it has a lot of scope. being a foundational technology.
I have a slightly contrary view here. So I've been a blockchain architect and developer since 2016. And honestly, I believe any use of blockchain outside of the cryptocurrencies world of financial services doesn't make sense to me. And we've had a lot of hype around the fact that there are so many blockchain use cases in so many different industries. But over the last several years, we can see that almost all of them have failed. And the only place where blockchain is doing well is in the field of cryptocurrencies and financial services. So that's my opinion on that.
No, I would like to chip in here. So I'd like to probably give a balanced opinion to both of you guys, Shravani and Rohas. So with the advent of NFTs, I mean non-fungible tokens, I guess it will extend to a lot of places, a lot of fields or domains. Because I see NFTs, I mean, I have a strong conviction towards NFTs because at BitsCrunch, we are solving the security issue of NFTs, right? So in the near future, I see bills payable as an NFT, bills receivable could be an NFT, your movie tickets, your football tickets, your commercials could become an NFT. So of course, there is some financial transactions relevant to that, but I see a lot of brands adopting it. I see various domains.
Actually, I agree with you. NFTs is also a crypto asset. So when I say crypto, I mean crypto assets, which are categorized into utility coins, medium of exchange, NFTs. So I'm totally with you when it comes to NFTs. I meant to say, these other use cases, for example, the supply chain management, or those kind of things, they don't work out, because I'll be very honest in this. How would the blockchain add any value in holding data of a supply chain movement? You could just as easily, or maybe even better, just put it into a regular database. The blockchain is not going to add any value there. So I believe the crypto assets is the only use case for blockchain.
I mean, the question is if you have like a trusted third party which is always on and kind of a lot of details in that direction, but still, I mean, you can use the blockchain as an alternative to a regular database, and it would anyway add a lot of value in track and trace and in all things where you need transparency for all people, like all having access to it. And one of the cases could be for insurance. If you want to have like claim handling in insurance, you could just have the total transparency from the first second when the incident appears somewhere, and then like across, you usually have like a multinational staggered approach. We have like an incident happening in Brazil or so, and then the headquarters are somewhere in another country, another continent maybe. So you have like regional levels in between going up the chain until you go to the headquarters. And if you would do that like with a blockchain, you have like the tamper-proof and full transparency from the first instance. Like every user could take some pictures and make an upload and kind of put in some comments and what's experienced. And that, in my view, would kind of be an added value. And there are some use cases in that direction which reduce the claim handling then from several weeks to kind of a couple of minutes or hours. And this was kind of, days. It's very significant.
Actually, what you're talking about are smart contracts, and they don't necessarily need the blockchain. So while I agree with what you're saying, for the insurance sector, it's the smart contracts that are really, really useful. But you don't need a blockchain for smart contracts. You could just as well run them without a blockchain. So, and like I said, it's crypto assets and financial services. So technically, insurance would come under a financial service. But it's the use cases outside of that is where I don't see the value.
So I have a couple of examples. Probably I'm taking up from whatever I know of. So one is that a Power Ledger, a company which does the trading on top of trading of electricity on top of blockchain. So the blockchain is establishing or in laying foundation for the trust between the trading partners. And of course, electricity is an asset. And also Gartner, as per Gartner analysis, it's the enterprise adoption of blockchain has increased from 5% to 14% in 2021. 2020. So, which means those are the production use cases that enterprises are trying to adopt, are having them live to start off. Another example is the IBM and Walmart, the famous food value chain. So one use case there is they want to track the E. coli breakup, which is causing food infections in cities in US. So they want to basically track and monitor the quality of the food products along the value chain, and also establish certain companies are working on establishing or re-emphasizing on the ethics part of ethics and societal impact uh, of whatever products they are consuming, from the scratch to the product that end consumer is having. So for the entire traceability and assurance, blockchain is being used. So probably the immutability part of the blockchain is forming the base of trust there, and also providing the traceability along the value chain.
Yeah, great discussion. I think smart contracts, financials, cryptocurrencies, immutability, a lot of these things. I mean, basically, scalability and performance. In fact, yesterday itself, I think not yesterday, but a few hours back, MIT announced the merge. So Ethereum is going around the merge. So just to talk about cryptocurrency. Is going with the merge. So proof of stake versus proof of work in Bitcoin. That's taking center stage. So again, scalability and performance is something that is going to be a significant factor in all of these use cases. What do you think about in the coming years? How do you think it's shaping up? Any thoughts or any inputs based on your experience as to how this is shaping up?
Do you mean the scalability?
Scalability, security, all of that, right?
If you look at some of the newer platforms, so while Bitcoin has 7 transactions per second and Ethereum 14, some of the new platforms like Avalanche, for example, do 4,500 TPS. And even when we look at the transactional finality, which in a Bitcoin is 60 minutes, it would be about 2 seconds in an Avalanche. So we are seeing a lot of the new blockchains that are coming. They're pretty scalable and fast. So I would say Polygon, the Binance Smart Chain, Avalanche, Phantom, these are doing pretty well.
Anybody else having any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that on scalability is sure something very interesting on the one side, and it's nice if the transactions per seconds are going up. And I mean, clearly everyone wants to achieve like Visa levels with 40,000 per second, or like scalable to 80 and so on. I mean, this is kind of the dream of cryptocurrencies on one side. On the other side, you want to have the total security, which comes at some costs or comes some price. I mean, this is a bit the idea, I think, on the opposite. So arguably, I mean, Bitcoin may be a little bit slow on that side, but also quite secure. And I mean, it comes at let's say a huge cost on the side of like from energy perspective, but it's also extremely secure. So I mean, the hash rate is so high that it's quite difficult to do the 51% attack and stuff like that. So it's kind of, I think you need to balance a little bit the things in the end. What's the ultimate goal that you have for the single blockchain? Yeah.
Sure, I agree with you. And in fact, there are new systems like there's the Lightning Network, and there is Stacks, which is trying to bring decentralized finance to Bitcoin. So, for example, in El Salvador, where Bitcoin has become legal tender, people can walk into a McDonald's and pay for a burger using Bitcoin. So, obviously, it cannot be slow. So, what happened there is the Lightning Network is being used. So, you don't end up writing all transactions to Bitcoin, and you use this layer, which you could kind of consider as a layer 2. So that's also doing good job. So like Polygon started out as a scaling solution for Ethereum. Similarly, Lightning Network is trying to do the same thing for Bitcoin, or Stacks blockchain is trying to do the same thing. So even that's helping out quite a bit.
Yeah, I fully agree on that one. And I mean, just to cite Vitalik Buterin on that one, I mean, he just said the future will be like multi-chain, but not infra-chain. So kind of not between the single chains, but I mean, multiple on the same. So this will be ultra interesting, probably.
Perfect.
Yeah, great discussion.
With you on that.
Yeah, thank you. How do you think quantum computing or this whole metaverse and Web 3.0, all of this will contribute towards kind of this whole thing speeding up or probably having multiple use cases of it. What is your opinion about it?
So quantum computing, there is a possibility of breaking the existing cryptocurrency, cryptography algorithms or base, whatever is the base for blockchain. But the quantum resistant ledgers could be built on top of it, so that could be one possible solution to come up with that in that front.
Would you like to go? Okay. So my opinion, when it comes to Web 3.0, I think there's just too much hype and very little substance, because there's a very simple logic here. Today, YouTube is ready to spend huge amounts of money to hold our videos because they are monetizing it through advertising. Tomorrow, if you want decentralized systems to actually hold all your videos, are you going to be ready to pay for them? And as users, we don't want to pay for anything online. We want everything free. So we want Instagram free and WhatsApp free and YouTube free. And then you still expect decentralization? Never going to happen. Because it is because they make money that they can spend so much on storing your videos and data. So I think Web 3.0 is not really going to pick up much. But on the other hand, Metaverse has huge potential provided we are able to build good solutions. I'll give you an idea. I started using the Metaverse in 2003 when Second Life first came out. And I remember in 2006, we had a virtual rock show by the group Duran Duran there. Now, I'm talking about 2003 is when Metaverse was very popular. It's 2022, but we haven't really seen much improved versions of it, right? It's a little boring at times. I mean, there just isn't that much fun. So unless Facebook and a few other companies are able to come out with a very compelling metaverse, like what Seoul in South Korea is saying, I'm going to put my entire city on the metaverse. So sitting anywhere in the world, wearing those smart goggles, you will get the feeling that you are exploring my city. If they actually build that, that's amazing. But if we can't get that level of interactivity, then it's not going to work. So let's see how it actually rolls out and how fun it is. Because if it's not fun, no one's going to use it.
Absolutely.
Like Rovis said, things are at a pretty early stage. I mean, when AI came into scheme of things, let's say artificial intelligence, when it came, people were really thinking, how can a computer mimic a human, right? Human being. They were some were afraid, some were hesitant, some were not really sure if this is gonna work out. But now we see a lot of things getting automated. I don't see anybody going and fixing a car by his or her own hand, right? Now machines are dealing with all the things, and it is just the machines checking if it is just the humans checking if the machines have done their job. So that is, and also automated cars, Teslas or any rivalries to Teslas, they are also already testing automated cars in the streets of US. So it will take time, but like Ro has said, if he's talking about 2003 and still there is not a lot of update, but with a lot of push towards Web3, metaverses, and the other side of things of late, like companies like Facebook changing its name to Meta, Microsoft acquiring a metaverse company in recent times. I guess that is going to happen, and it should happen for the better ecosystem. And but still, we are in very early days. I would say.
Yeah, the NFTs and the dApps are, as Vijay mentioned, they are in the infancy stage, probably we can say. If we see the cycle of the advent of blockchain and cryptocurrency on top of it, and then the enterprise blockchain, after that we had this dApps, DAOs, and NFTs all emerging from the technology, right? So what seems to be if for example, one of the decentralized app that is called as Chainlink, which verifies the data feeds for organizations. So now Google is trying to use it for the BigQuery, their BigQuery platform, using those feeds, because that would be a kind of trusted data for them. So organizations like Facebook are also experimenting in those lines. I'm just giving an example. So companies or enterprises are trying to experiment and see how things would fall in place. In this case, the decentralized app chain link. And also another concept is the self-sovereign identity, which where the identity itself, a person who is owning the identity can be incentivized, or the credentials could be validated. The person can have a control on what could be shared, where, what attributes, like that. So those in those lines also, things are, emerging. Companies, enterprises are working upon. Yeah.
Great use cases and great thoughts. Sylvan, you had something?
I was just thinking that about metaverse. I think if it will be a really a success or not will also largely depending on how strong this interconnection will work. I mean, the idea behind is really to connect all the things like DeFi and NFTs and gaming experience and payments and to kind of have this alternative world where everything comes together, but without physical boundaries and like the distance is not so relevant. I mean, you can be really close, but still far away in the real world. So, I would be interesting how much this integration really is so seamless between the different games, so that you can buy kind of a skin for like one game and pay it with a cryptocurrency that you earn by doing something in another place in the metaverse, and kind of how this all comes together. This is probably one of the key elements on the success then.
Great points, great points. And considering that the blockchain technology itself has its root in the 90s, so we are 30 years from it, we are actually seeing use cases. I do agree. It's going to be a matter of time before these actually emerge out of into actual use cases. So very true indeed. Now, there's a lot of talk about environment and the overall sustainability. What do you guys think about it?
So initially, the proof of work, which is very mining intensive, consuming a lot of energy, electricity. But things evolved, and now Ethereum also adopted proof of stake, for that matter, to be more on the greener side. So there's a paradigm shift, there's a lot of innovation, and still there is more scope of innovation on that front. But there's a the work to be on the more sustainable part is in progress, I feel.
Can I again disagree with I think it's an unfair question, and I'll tell you why. Does anyone ever ask a bank how offices? They travel in air-conditioned cars. They travel in planes. Has anyone ever calculated the economic, environmental cost of that? So why should we constantly calculate the environmental cost of a Bitcoin network when we are not ready to ask these questions to all the conventional factories and businesses of the world? So I think that's just something the media wanted to speak against Bitcoin, because we've got to remember something. Proof of work is the only consensus mechanism that has been tested time and again from 2010 till today, and it has withstood all the attacks. So it's proven to be really secure. Proof of stake is extremely new. We don't know how it's going to work. I come from a cybersecurity and hacking background, and I believe the only systems or techniques that I trust are the ones that have been tested extensively in the real world, and that's proof of work. Proof of stake is not used that much yet, and what if it just fails? So I disagree with other consensus mechanisms. I believe proof of work is, as of right now, the only provable one. And I believe this whole environmental discussion makes zero sense to me. Almost everything that humans do cause huge amounts of pollution and environmental damage. So why single out Bitcoin for that?
Absolutely. Could not agree more. It's like even the self-driving cars take heat on rubber hitting the ground, but rubber hitting the ground is how cars work. So absolutely. Very truly said. Sylvan, you had something to say?
I think what we can still try is to be as ecological as possible. We see the projects of using natural resources to produce the energy then used by the Bitcoin mining facilities. So in that direction, I think we still have some room to go, and the kind of improvement areas what we can use. Like, yeah, I mean, we can use the Niagara Falls, for instance, the water coming down and for energy and stuff like this. I think that's still kind of positive, and yeah, geothermal energy in Iceland and so.
Yeah, yeah. Any thoughts, Vijay?
Like Sylvan and the others said, we have a lot of chains coming up, right? I mean, like Rohas said, are we asking the same question to the others? Right? No, right? So, and it's again at a very early stage. If you look at Solano, which was released last year, or if you look at Algorand or Terra Chain, which are far more, like, let's say, even they handle with less amount of energy when you compare it with the other prominent chains. So give themselves a little bit of more time and see when they scale up, is that the same case, or are they also drifting from their goals? So when ETH started, we all know that comment made by Vitalik, right? He said, when transacting using Bitcoins, why there is a gas fees? That was the famous comment he made back in 2014 or 15 when Ethereum came into picture. At that time, gas fees on Ethereum was very less, but when it all scaled up, where we are now, we are paying $20, $30, or even more at times. So give all the chains, like Rohit said, let them be tested and proven, and until and unless we cannot actually comment on that. So it's good to let people use technologies, let them scale so that millions and millions of users actually use it before taking a call on it.
Yeah, well said, Vijay. Rohit, since you're the cybersecurity expert here amongst us, like to ask you the question. Blockchain is also criticized for 51% of the security attacks. What's your take on that?
Sure. I'd like to clarify, I'm not really an expert in cybersecurity. I've just worked in that field for many years. But 51% attack is one of the kind of attacks that could happen on a proof of work based system. Having said that, Bitcoin was hacked way back in 2010, and people managed to create billions of Bitcoins, whereas it was never supposed to go over 21 million. But they still managed to do it. And then, of course, that was fixed and everything went back. But that wasn't a 51% attack. So when you actually look at blockchain security, there are many different levels you need to look at. So for example, blockchain runs on nodes. Ultimately, each node runs on an operating system. Blockchain doesn't have a built-in OS. So your node could be running on Ubuntu or Windows or Mac. What if there's a vulnerability in the OS? That's one layer people get in through. What if there's a problem in the way you've configured things, not put a proper firewall? Your end user falls for a fake email and ends up giving his private key. Not the fault of the blockchain, but the hack goes through. So there are tons and tons of things that can go wrong. And when people say blockchain is unhackable, that's not true. Any technology made by man can be broken by man. I mean, sorry, ma'am, I don't mean man as in gender wise, but whatever humans create, humans can always hack. And that's the same thing in blockchain. And that's why we've seen in the last few months, Solana suffered multiple attacks. We've seen Ethereum's first DAO, or decentralized autonomous organization, way back in 2016 hacked because the smart contract was not written properly. So there are tons and tons of things that can go wrong here also. So please don't believe anyone who says blockchains are unhackable. No, they are hackable.
And many attacks based on blockchain technology happen to be human related vulnerabilities rather than the technology problem with the technology as such, either the wallets or the private key or compromise or something like that.
Yeah, social engineering is still a big issue.
Yeah, so true. Everything comes with its own faults, and everything has its own things. It's always, as we say, picnic, right? Problem in chair, not in computer. So what do you guys think about decentralized apps, and how do you think it will affect enterprise? I mean, centralized apps and going central was the concept behind digital transformation. Now, all of a sudden, you have these decentralized apps, and what do you think? How will the enterprise adapt that?
in decentralized apps lack of a central structure, so it's kind of the governance is a bit different. I mean, usually it's kind of very a decentralized decision making process, and in that area, I mean, we can see like OpenSea or so, which you have some projects that already try that, and I think DeFi is probably one of the most interesting things you can do, is kind of really like to reproduce exchanges which are decentralized like Uniswap, and look into that direction. And I think the services rendered are kind of very similar to the old world, but you have some advantages in terms of it's more secure. It's kind of you don't necessarily have like a single point of failure. You have more like a distributed governance. I mean, the decision making is more distributed, and you have probably like a more like kind of a peer-to-peer feeling in the underlying. And crypto enthusiasts usually kind of prefer that direction because it's kind of more pure, kind of more like close to what they're looking for. And I would say from design perspective, from a user perspective, the design is more like non-custodial, so the assets are held by the user, and they not need to give them up. From a regulator perspective, it's much different because the regulators want to look at more like how to implement AML provisions like anti-money laundering on the DeFi, which is not so easy. So I see a lot of opportunities in the disintermediation and in the very rapid settlement of transactions. So instead of having like T+2, you have like almost immediate settlement. And in the direction of using more DAOs. So I think that would be one of the strong use cases as well.
Perfect. Anybody else? Any other thoughts?
Yeah, sorry, I'm going to have to disagree. So, okay, so I believe decentralization in crypto is a myth, and I'll prove it to you. You look at the top cryptos of the world. Number one, Bitcoin. Just 2 or 3 mining pools control more than 60% of Bitcoin mining. Same is the case with Ethereum. The top few pools control more than a majority of Ethereum mining. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, not centralized. Look at the third one. Look at Binance. 21 validators are chosen every day to validate transactions. Only 21. And the condition is they've got to put $4 million worth of BNB at stake. $4 million. Obviously, normal people like you and me are not going to take part in the validation process. So Binance, not centralized, not decentralized. Look at the top stablecoin, Tether, issued by one startup in the world. You put money into their bank account, they issue Tether worth $70-80 billion. There is no question of decentralization because that's how stablecoins work. Look at Solana. For 18 hours, the entire network was down. If it is decentralized, some nodes go down, at least one node should be operational. The entire blockchain was down for 18 hours. Where is the decentralization? Again, that's simply myths created by the media, and everybody is just made to believe it. But trust me, there is no decentralization in crypto. It's a highly centralized entity, and we have 5 whales or groups of whales who control all the crypto prices also. So I would say it's completely centralized. It's just that there are new people centralizing. In the earlier world, you had banks and stock exchanges and governments. Now you've got private parties like whales and miners and validators. All we've achieved is changing the intermediary, but it's as centralized as it always was.
So I think
then definitely true. Yeah, thanks, Ravani. So definitely true to some extent because I see a lot of whales. I mean, taking cryptocurrencies up and down, fluctuating the prices. But like I said, if we allow some time, probably landscape might vary, might differ. Uh, Even Twitter CEO took that to Twitter himself, openly criticizing the VCs having control over what is being built on Web3. Right? I mean, we saw that tweet, and that became an issue as well on Twitter. So he was actually saying VCs like Axel, Tiger Global, Insane Partners, A16Z, they are controlling the Web3 platforms. It is too true to some extent because the people also look at the backers in some of the projects. And when they see A16Z or let's say Animoca Brands, Coinbase Ventures on their cap table, they simply go for it. Most of the fellow friends or colleagues that I know who either worked with me or studied with me before, they just invest on tokens just seeing their cap table. Who is the investors? Okay, A16Z is backing, Coinbase is backing them. So that's not the actual right mindset. I mean, you should actually look at a lot of aspects when it comes to a project. You should look at the team. You should look at some teams are anonymous. Some teams openly say that they are the guys working for the project. There are active communities of Telegram, Twitter, Discord. So yes, it is creator-based economy, but it has not been fully decentralized. I mean, if you look at let's say data platform, Covalent is one from Canada. They are a centralized data provider, and Graph is trying to decentralize data. But if you look at most of the things, it's centralized to an extent. I don't really see 20, 30 players in the top 50 who are decentralized. Now the balance is shifting a little bit. Like I said, we definitely have to allow everybody some time to figure out what works and what doesn't.
On a slightly different context, I think what the decentralized apps, or a couple of primary reasons are: one is to avoid monopolies, and in blockchain, without intermediaries, things can work. That's something. So if there is a incentivized something like a cost benefit for all the involved stakeholders, let it be government or let it be with the enterprises, with the citizens, then there could be a full-fledged, people chances of more adoption of decentralized apps. Now people are working on the universal ID identity for across the world. Some of the examples are like Earth-ID, and there are many companies working on that. They want universal basic income, crowdfunding. So I think, as I agree on the governance and the regulations part, such as GDPR and all in place, it needs to be worked out, or yet to be more evolved. But still, there's scope for adoption.
Great discussion, and looks like the audience is also involved now and asking a lot of questions. So maybe I'll take some time to have the distinguished panel answer some of their questions. So the first question is from POC. Is it true that the world is moving towards more virtual life, like a whole life in metaverse? Any takers?
Sure. I mean, I love the metaverse. And what I really like about it is you can be what you want to be. So, for example, in real life, I always, as a kid, wanted to be 6 feet 4 inches tall. But unfortunately, I stopped at 5'11". But when I go to the metaverse, my digital avatar is 6.5 feet tall. And he can be as muscular as I want him to be. And there are no diseases in the metaverse. You don't have to worry about COVID there. So I think over time, as more and more of us anyway are today living in the virtual social media world, I'm sure a lot of us are going to move into the metaverse, and it's a lovely place. And that's going to completely change the way in which humans react. But you have haptic gloves, and when you wear those and you shake hands with someone in the metaverse, you get the feel that you actually shake a hand with someone in real life. So and then now we're coming out with techniques where you can mimic smells, not just audio and video, but also smells will be digitized. So I could walk into a shop in the metaverse and I could smell, say, the cakes that they're baking. So as those technologies grow, I would say yes, more and more of us would be entering that. And maybe that's what the movie Matrix was trying to tell us, that humans prefer to live in the Matrix rather than in the real world. So I'm a big fan of the metaverse.
Sure, to add on that one, I think, yes, just oh, sorry, Deepak.
Yeah, go ahead, Sylvan.
Yeah, Rasa, this was a very good point. I mean, the feeling of being there and still close. I mean, I know some projects in the area of music, for instance. You can wear some vests, and those give you the feeling that you really have the vibrations as if you would be in a concert. And now imagine that you can play music with your favorite band on stage with a crowd in front of you, and like having the feeling that you're really there and doing that with them. And then you can even register that session of yours with your solo, whatever you made on Audition. And you can register that one and sell it immediately to some providers. And I think those are really cool applications or ideas that come up. I mean, you can either be in the public, in the audience, like enjoying the spectacle or being part of the spectacle itself. So that would be cool applications, I think. But on the other side, you're still in real life because you need some food and you need to go out and do your stuff. So it's not just shifting totally over, I think.
Very well said. Any thoughts, Shravani or Vijay?
So in similar pandemic situation in future, there would be virtual meetings as breaking barriers. I think Ro has already mentioned that. So such kind of use cases also would be more prominent, widely adopted maybe in future.
All right. The second question is from Shubham. Shubham says, as we know, AI and blockchain are both sort of orthogonal technologies. So which one of them can be leading technologies in 4 to 5 years from now?
I mean, it's also possible to combine the two technologies and even combine them furthermore with like Internet of Things. And you can do, let's say that we have a food chain, for instance. I think Shravani already proposed that use case for blockchain earlier in this talk. And I would say, I mean, if you need then I would take like medicines. I think that's also a use case. Let's say medicines need to be cool at all times, below a certain temperature. So you can really trace it through the whole chain from production to distribution facilities to the end client almost. Really kind of what is the temperature in any point of time. You can use that with the sensors, and I think that is a combination of everything. And then in the end, you have an AI which is controlling. So, and if something goes wrong, like the temperature is too high for one, then the lot will be discarded. And so I think you can combine all the technologies. Why would they need to be mutually exclusive?
So adding on to Silvanda, one such thing is NASA has already projects started using all these technologies together, like autonomous spacecrafts, which involves IoT, AI, as machine learning, as well as this blockchain in place. So each of them have their own direction, and probably in future there would be more use cases combining and working together. All of these, using all of this for greater benefit.
Yeah, Rohas, you're saying something?
Yeah, I was saying they don't compete with each other. AI and blockchain, they're not competitors, and they both have their use cases, and there will be many use cases where both even come together. So they're not competing with each other.
Great. All right. Jonas has a question. Do you have any thoughts on blockchain plus life cycle assessment, carbon emission system? I think we briefly touched on this, but any thoughts on that?
Sure, there are a couple of projects I worked on where they are bringing carbon credits onto the blockchain as crypto assets, which can be tradable. So that's definitely a good use case, and a lot of people are working on that.
And there are also chains like V3iT. So they are promising that they'll incorporate such things onto their chain. But yeah, still early days. They are yet to hit the main net. They are still in the testnet, I believe. So yeah, looking forward to such teams which also take carbon imprints into consideration when they develop things.
You can use some on the enterprise
side. Yeah, on the enterprise side, it's a slightly different. There are Hyperledger Fabric and IBM or Amazon, Oracle, Microsoft. All of them are having their own services on cloud. So it's not crypto is one part of it, but there is other side of blockchain with smart contracts and enterprise adoption. While still it is yet to be yet to mature, but things have started on that direction too.
Great, great. There's one question from AJ. What are the job prospects in blockchain if anyone wants to go into that field from a non-technical background? How to trade in blockchain, how to secure trades in and investments made in this?
Sure. So there are three kinds of careers you could make in blockchain. There's the finance, there is the investigation, and there is the technology. So finance is where you would work with these DeFi platforms and you would design their white papers, you would design the token economics, and you would also design how the protocol should function, because there's a lot of high-end finance that goes in, especially when you look at DeFi protocols such as decentralized exchanges where liquidity pools are created. So there's like really advanced finance that goes in. So that's one area. Investigation is because cryptocurrencies are being used to commit so many crimes, or they are used by criminals for laundering and moving money around. So investigation has become very big. That's especially if you're in the law enforcement side. And technology is where you could become a blockchain developer, or like me, you could become a blockchain architect. So as an architect, my main job is when a client comes and says, this is what I want to do, I need to identify which blockchain framework actually makes the most sense, and then how do we connect the entire all the layers together and have a proper solution out. And the security and other things like smart contract auditing, all that comes into this. So there are tons and tons of career opportunities.
Yeah, I agree on that one, and I think it depends a little bit on how close you want to be essentially to the blockchain technology in a blockchain company, because in the end, a blockchain company, a blockchain based company, I mean, it will grow and it will have eventually like hundreds, if not thousands of people. And I mean, not all of them will be technically skilled and diehard programmers. I mean, you will need all kind of people. So as long as you kind of just want to be in the area of blockchain, but not specifically programming, there are lots of options, even from non-technical stuff.
Perfect. Thanks for those responses. There's one interesting question from Prachi, and she says, what according to you is the scope of NFTs, not just for digital artists, but overall for enterprises and businesses to adopt NFTs and digital assets in their business models to solve customer problems and implement their client solutions as well?
I mean, like I previously said, exclusivity is one thing that people can tag along with NFTs. Let's say if somebody owns Manchester United NFTs, they can provide access to matches across ages or across countries that where Man United gets to play. Right, that is one small example, and we already saw Adidas or Nike coming into NFT picture, and a lot of other brands getting into it. So, I mean, the reason why board dApps are getting sold for $1 million or $500,000 is because it has attained that level where only very few people get that. Let's say Justin Bieber, for instance. The reason why he bought that, I mean, to me, is he meets 50 other Justin Biebers if there is a Babe party, if there is a board day party. So he gets to meet other Justin Biebers or his caliber where he discusses businesses, right? So they provide access to board day parties. So these sorts of exclusivity can make people realize that NFTs have more, let's say, utilities. So, for instance, Gary V provides his books to those who hold on to his NFTs, exclusive books. So this could be an option. Like I said at the beginning, bills payable could be an NFT, bills receivable could be an NFT. But we need to still see how it goes, because NFTs, even though it started in 2017 in the form of CryptoPunks or Bored Apes, it actually started picking up in the last year, end of 2020 or beginning of 2021. So with just 1 year of testing, we cannot make a judgment. It's too early to take a call on that. But I see a lot of possibilities. I see a lot of utilities coming around. I see a lot of exclusivities, which can people get out of it. There are some lifetime NFTs where if you hold that, you get lifetime access to certain things. Let's say to the Business Herald magazine, if they release an NFT that is worth several $100,000 or something, you get an access to that newspaper for your lifetime. How does that look like, right? So there are endless possibilities with NFTs, but we are still early. We need to see because working for, leading BitScrunch, I was able to look at the dark side of NFTs as well. There are a lot of people who involved in wash trading, for example, who manipulate the prices for NFTs just with 2 or 3 fake transactions. So we are actually looking at the backside of NFTs, and we are also trying to fix those issues. But yeah, we are at a pre-Series A stage. Just closed a $3.5 million round from Animoca Brands, Coinbase Ventures, and others. Still a long way to go. Let's see how it goes.
Thank you, Vijay. Sylvan, you have any thoughts on that? Or Shravani?
So I heard credentials or certificates also could be NFTs. NFTs are something that could be unique as well, right? So that is one possible. Probably in metaverse, the avatar, if it is unique, would be one of the NFT. So there are a lot of possibilities.
I think besides the endless possibilities of NFTs, we may also consider, there are already standards for NFTs in Ethereum, for instance, like 721 ERC, or like then semi-fungible tokens like 1155 ERC. And so, there are a lot of potential. I see it's very high, but also some issues on the other side. If you buy an NFT of a piece of art, what exactly is unique, or what is stored on chain and what is off chain, which is usually or kind of sometimes got neglected. So storing the whole picture on chain is usually too big, so it will be massively expensive. So we just store a little link to this off chain digital piece of art. And then, it's not so well protected as if it would be on chain. So the only on-chain that I've seen so far is kind of 12 by 12 pixel or so in that size, which is it's really kind of granular and not exactly a 4K resolution that we would expect today by kind of a nice picture. So I see some issues potentially on copyright infringements and how to enforce them, and on which jurisdictions. Did you buy your rights on? Where is it applicable, and what kind of contract is underlying, or how do you make this? How do you bridge this gap between the digital new world and like the old classical world where you have stored the bigger part of the data and that you are actually tokenized in an NFT? So I think those are kind of stuff or questions that still need a little bit to be resolved and to be taken into consideration when being a fan of NFTs.
Great. There's a lot of questions, but any final thoughts? I know we are probably 3 minutes away, but any final thoughts that you would like to share with the audience? Let's start with Rohas.
Really understanding the game. So, there's something called the fear and greed index. And I think that's one of the most accurate indicators of when you should buy or when you should sell. The logic is when everybody is scared, that's the time to buy. When everybody is greedy and saying crypto is going to double and triple, that's the time to sell. So that's my only message, that if you're looking at getting into crypto investing, there's a lot you need to learn. But most importantly, please don't buy when everybody is buying, and please don't sell when everybody is selling. That's what I'd like to say.
Wonderful. Shravani, any final thoughts?
Yeah, from the scalability to sustainability, whatever we have covered the points. Since it's a foundational technology, there's a lot of scope for innovation and there's a lot of work in progress. So I think if a truly decentralized economy in an idealistic way is possible, which is a win-win-win for all the participants in it, that would be a greater greater benefit for the society and as well as the world. So hopefully blockchain plays its role in the upcoming Web 3.0, metaverse, and all of that. So.
Great thoughts. Sylvan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, from my end, I just want to, it's probably all said. I'm very happy to have shared some time with you guys, and honored to be here part of this panel with these distinguished guests, and very happy about this one. So thanks a lot to all of you.
Yeah, thanks from my side.
The time is less, and there's a lot of questions.
And panelists and participants especially.
Thank you, and it's a lot of questions, and I think we have got a lot of people excited, and we appreciate the distinguished panelists and the distinguished audience to kind of gel into this whole discussion, and we really appreciate it. But time is short, and I know we have to do other things as well. So appreciate all the inputs, appreciate all the time everybody spent, and it was good meeting all of you. Thank you so much.